There we go. Tim, in the last little clip that we made, you were talking about how this conversation of business romance, of empathy and enchantment and wonder and intimacy and all these things are a relevant, required conversation in the modern world of work, and not just in the startup community, but also big business, Fortune 500 companies. So, can you share with us some of the work that you've been doing with these bigger organizations? Because you've worked with some of the biggest brands on the planet. So, you don't have to go into specifics, but what are you seeing? What are you bringing to them? How are they applying it and adopting these principles?
So I've been fortunate because I started my career on the West Coast in the Bay Area working with Frog Design. Frog Design is a legendary product design and innovation firm. Coincidentally, it was founded by a German industrial designer not far from where I grew up. It became very famous for the work it did with Apple in the 80s, especially the so-called Snow White design language that it designed for Steve Jobs back then. And I worked with Frog Design from 2006 to 2013, and I was able to work with, yes, or at least observe the work that we did with some big brands like Disney, for example, where we did the entire customer experience for Disney World in Orlando, GE, and other brands. And I think the one big insight there was that all these organizations, at the end of the day, they came to us to be more innovative. What they were really looking for was to become more radical. This is, I know, I see aligns with your language,
Mm,
but really to really craft a bold vision, to imagine the boldest version of themselves.
mm,
Sometimes they couldn't even articulate it. They came to us because they said, "Well, we need incremental innovation and we need product innovation," but they're always looking for is actually a big change in culture
mm,
to be able to produce sustainable innovation. So I thought that was kind of interesting that it all came down to human factors.
mm,
And very often, Hartmut, our founder, had the saying, "Form follows emotion." To really understand what were the underlying desires, the unmet needs, the unarticulated needs of users. So that was was a great, 7 years of learning how important that is and how it translates into compelling customer experiences. But on the other hand, I think the other thing I took away from it was that I still wanted to dig a little deeper and see what is really truly driving humans, and how do you actually thrive as an organization in the 21st century, where economic principles have invaded all aspects of our lives. We seem to live in this winner takes all society. Then there's this threat, of course, now, or an opportunity that comes from the rise of artificial intelligence and exponential technology.
mm,
So what do we make of all of that? How do we cooperate in the future with AI, with humans? What does it mean? That's the core question to me. What does it mean to be human in the 21st century? And that is a question, whether that's articulated or not quite
mm,
yet, that most organizations need to answer for themselves. Where do I stand? What are my values when it comes to working with machines and efficiency? How far do I take this?
mm,
Do I protect culture, a human culture, which in some sense is the opposite of efficiency, it's the anti-efficiency, right? And I think those questions are certainly on the minds of all big organizations. I ran workshops for Fortune 500 firms. I worked for Vitra Design, which is a leading workplace design furniture company in Europe and the US. I spoke at rather engineering-driven firms such as IBM or Airbus or UPS, for example.
mm,
Now, when they hear about romance, their first reaction is, What? Are
mm,
you kidding me?" And, they're very metrics and quants driven, of course. But what I found really encouraging is whether or not they say they become a romantic organization overnight, there's certainly an appreciation for the need to explore alternative ways of doing business, that the current model is broken,
mm,
and that they need to find a way to bring the emotional side of being back into the equation. So the curiosity and the openness right now for that kind of conversation is significant. And my experience is, um, the more radical you're thinking, the more of sort of an outside voice you are coming in and looking at the industry rather than speaking the practical, pragmatic language that is part of corporate mainstream vocabulary. I think the more valuable your perspective right now. So
mm,
this is a time, I think, where you can put all ideas on the table, and many leaders will be listening because there's great uncertainty, great ambiguity. No one really knows, what's going to happen in the next 5 to 10 years due to technology and many other developments.
Mm,
So I think it's a good time to radically rethink what it means to be a business and what it means to be a human-centric organization in the 21st century.
mm. Beautiful, man. I can't wait to hear this and more on.
I'm sorry, you have to edit me, my friend, because I can't keep going on about this
I love it.
forever.
I love it.
Sorry.
No, man, it's beautiful. I can't wait. We've managed to secure a good 6 hours for you alone in the event, and then there's 45 minutes for the other eight speakers. So, uh,
That's awesome. I think I'm going to talk for 3 hours and then I'll do 15-minute Q&A and then I'm going to talk about for 2 hours and 45 minutes closing.
yeah, brilliant. Cool, man. I can't wait to see you very soon down under.
Awesome. Likewise.